Have you thought about doing any projects, like a book or anything like that about GamerGate?
I do, and I mean, if I end up doing it, I'll probably doing it semi-anonymously, if not anonymously. But honestly, like I don't want to do it in such a way that like, in fact, like I have such sympathy for pretty much everyone on every side about this whole thing because it's more complicated than just simply the right side and the wrong side. Heck, I can even make I would like to make some of these journalists into sympathetic characters. Like a lot of them were just protecting their friends, and they had no idea how big this was going to get. So it's like that's another way of framing it. As I said at the very beginning, like Zoe Quinn herself, like is a victim of a system that tended to favor the what do you call it, the idea of having a casting couch. People haven't framed it that way. No one talked about it that way, but that's actually it's a truth of it. Is that the only way that maybe she figured she'd get attention is by doing that? I mean, I don't know. That could have been that's part of her story, and that's something that's for her to tell. I'm not gonna say that she's a vicious person. She made a mess of a lot of things, but if you look at it, it's like she's also a person in pain. And all these third party trolls, for whatever they're going through, I really hope they find something meaningful in their life.
You think that that's the answer, this sort of deep empathy?
Yes and no, and that's one thing that GamerGate also taught me. I think that's one thing that if going back to something that's changed in me, is also learning that there are people out there who want to see the world burn, who want to see things get worse, who want to see people in pain. That's something like contending on that level of evil, because there are people who do want that, and recognizing that and coming face to face with it, the people who want to actually hurt me and my family, and people who are good people out there who are trying to do good. That's also another factor in it. But at the same time, like I also have to hold that tension, and that's the part that I also recognize. Hold the tension, the fact that there may still be a way out for them, and to hope that for them. It's hard. And honestly, like, when people are posting pictures of your family and your house and you're talking about your kids, like they got in front of me, I don't know what I'd do. At the same time, like I also have to hold hope for them. Because, I mean, you and I may disagree on this one, but I think that, you know, come what may, like we're all going to be judged on how we face the truth, and if we spoke it and if we did what was right. I wouldn't want to be in their shoes.
You talk about the truth a lot, and I have adopted this sort of radical honesty in my own life. I try to, at least, and I think I generally do a good job. It's a relatively recent phenomenon. Not that I was like a constant liar in the past, but like, I mean, I guess in some way I was. We all were. Everybody, I feel like so many people lie all the time. And like just small lies, even like people lie when it's convenient for them. Like, oh, why were you late? And you're like, oh, I was stuck in traffic. When the reality is like, no, you just like left your house late because you didn't really give a shit about this meeting too much, or like whatever. But people lie about stuff all the time. And I've tried to adopt this honesty in my life after reading Sam Harris's book, and I've just made a conscious effort to try and to be a better person. And I feel like, well, not be a better person necessarily, but like to tell the truth, except in cases where like the extreme scenario of like the Nazis are asking you for the Jews, right, where the Jews are at. But like barring extreme cases where your life or livelihood is on the line, I think it's important to be honest with people. And I don't I don't see a lot of this in society. And it's like the more honest you become, the more you see how often other people lie all the time, just casually, because they don't want to hurt other people's feelings, or because they think that if they tell the truth, it'll make them look bad or whatever.
I think this is something that, especially even as a Catholic, a lot of Catholics miss this, and it's something they don't realize what they're doing. At the very beginning of Mass, they say that I have greatly sinned. I've missed the mark in my thoughts and my words and what I've done and what I've failed to do. To take radical ownership for everything and realize that the reason there's a problem in the world is because you haven't done what you're supposed to do. and you admit that in front of everyone, in front of the people next to you, and say, it's my fault. The reason why the world is this. Take radical ownership and say, it's my fault. And now I want to start again. Help me. I want to start again. I will help you. You help me. We'll start again. And be radically honest with the fact that the reason there's problems in the world is because I did it. I missed the mark. And people miss that. People repeat the words, but they don't really think about it. And that's, that's the kind of honesty we have to be with each other. Like, hey, I need to take ownership of this. So I'm kind of glad that, in your life, and, and also I'm kind of glad that in your own way, you were holding me accountable for something you thought I was doing wrong. And I don't blame you for that at all.
Well, I
And,
I blame I quote unquote blame myself because I approached it very poorly.
well, you I did too. I did too. And look, we both were aiming at the truth. And now, years later, we can look at it and go, man, that was dumb. But hey, because we're aiming at the truth, we're here.
All right.
That's really what matters. I missed the mark. You missed the mark. Okay, great. Let's get back and do it again.
Let's learn from it. All right. So you don't have to talk about it, but did you experience any harassment during GamerGate from either side or from third-party trolls?
It was all the third party stuff. I think you and I know who was responsible. I'm not going to name any names as well. And really came down to it was just probably the worst of it. And I don't think it was even harassment. It was mostly just. I mean, this is the way I'd frame it, and this is why people say it's harassment. When I said we'll do the end the GamerGate hashtag thing, it wasn't harassment. It was a whole bunch of people giving me negative feedback, and it wasn't. They weren't intending to do that. But the negative feedback does affect you really greatly, and it can feel like people are attacking you personally. So that's what it is. It's not harassment. It's just people giving you negative feedback. And so, I mean, that was probably the worst of it. But in terms of personal, going after you and your kids, we can name who those people are, and they already were taken care of, and they have their own problems at the moment. So I'm not really worried about them. Like, they have a lot going on for them right now. So
Do you have any thoughts on the term sea lioning?
I love the sea lion.
I love the sea lion too.
And it was Ethics the Sea Lion who we adopted. I was listening to you talk to Pac about that yesterday, and yeah, I remember Ethics. And I mean, I love that term, and because and even if you look at the comic, people are laughing at it. It's like a polite sea lion comes around saying, "Hey, we want to discuss something with you," and
Yeah, you make a good.
yeah, I mean, it's like a cute sea lion who wants to say, "Hey, we want to talk to you about this. Leave us alone, please." It's like, no, but I mean, you discussed this thing, and it's really polite sea lion, and I'm like, that's us. I mean, it may be a little obnoxious, but it's at least polite.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because that sea lion comic is like a Rorschach test because
Yeah.
people on our side were like, well, aside from the part at the end where the sea lion's in her house, aside from that part, the sea lion's in the right. Whereas people
Yeah.
on the other side are like, this is exactly what those stupid fucking GamerGate harassers do all the time to us. It's like, but that's not like a bad thing.
No, you guys are talking in a public space, and we can see it, and we'd like to talk to you about it. And have you heard about our Lord and Savior Vivian James?
Exactly. Well, I was told the other day by somebody that during GamerGate I was always trying to spread the good news about GG. That I was the pastor of GamerGate practice. I'm like, oh my god. I think actually sorry. I just shouldn't. I know you're a Christian. I shouldn't use the Lord's name in vain. I guess in front of you out of politeness. But if
Hold,
anybody, I think
hold a second.
you're the pastor of
Hold, hold,
GamerGate.
hold a second. Hold a second.